Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. Coming up, we take a look at a local business's move to new premises after 118 years of being on the same site. And we head to Grimsby Minster for reflections. And my guest tonight is Michelle Lawler, editor of the Grimsby Telegraph, here to talk about that move and the history. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Emma Lingard. Now it's time for the news headlines.
A new classroom has been built to help meet a rise in demand in school places in Barton. The additional classroom at Castledyke Primary School provides 30 extra places and was thought to have cost around £200,000. We spoke to the school's head teacher, Rosie Prue, who says they'll now be able to lower the number of pupils in every class so they get greater one-to-one attention.
The pupil numbers have really gone through the roof these last few years. The school's been oversubscribed for 5 years, and if you've ever been to the school, it's over 100 years old, and so there is just not the capacity there to fit in all these new young people. So what has actually happened is we've created an extra class, and so the rest of the classes can now be little bit smaller. So we now have some classes that are 22, 24, which that was not the case last year.
Police are appealing for witnesses after two 15-year-old girls were robbed as they walked through Grimsby's Grant Thorold Park. The incident happened between 9:45 p.m. and 10:15 p.m. on Friday. The girls were approached by a group of three other girls aged between 16 and 18. One victim was assaulted who fell to the floor. The gang escaped with mobile phones, an iPod and a handbag. Elsewhere, a woman has been arrested after an arson attack on a house in Grimsby last night. Humberside Fire and Rescue were called to the blaze at an unoccupied house on Heneage Road at around 8:40 p.m. Humberside police say the 46-year-old was arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger lives. And Hull singing star Charlie Beard narrowly missed out on getting through to the next round of this year's X Factor competition. The 17-year-old wowed the crowd with her performance of Jennifer Hudson's Love You I Do during the 6-chair challenge, but in a shocking twist, the Hull Collegiate School student later lost her place and a chance to perform at the judges' houses. Charlie was competing against more than a dozen other young women in the girls' group who are being mentored by Judge Rita Ora. Well, that's all we have from the news. If you do have any stories for us, you can contact us on 01472 315561. Until next time.
At the heart of every community is usually a church, a pub and the local newspaper. When the printing presses ceased at Grimsby's newspaper a number of years ago, staff were left rattling around in a big building. Now they're moving to a new building which is fit for purpose, but after 118 years of being on the same site, will it be a shock? It was business as normal for staff, despite the fact a major move was underway. After 118 years of operating on the East Marsh in Grimsby, the local daily newspaper is moving. And though it may be only a stone's throw away to the West Marsh, the old building holds many memories for some of the staff. Editor Michelle Lawler has been there for many years, going from a young journalist to be in charge of numerous titles.
There has been a newspaper on this site for over 100 years. Started off as the Eastern Daily Press, and we've got some fantastic pictures actually in a supplement which is coming out next Thursday, which show the fantastic history of the Eastern Daily Press, then morphed into the Grimsby Telegraph and what we are today. But times move on. We have a huge building now, and like every regional newspaper in the country, the presses aren't here anymore. Everybody knows that. Still very much a daily newspaper alive in Grimsby. Excuse me. But it was time to move, really, the way we are. The building has outgrown us, if you like. We need to move to the heart of Grimsby Town Centre now, which is where we're going, and we're all very excited to be going there.
Another long-serving stalwart is Michelle Hurst, who, like her colleagues, is looking forward to the move and a new building.
I've seen many changes since I've worked here, and when I first started here, of course, we did the old-fashioned paste-up way, and the technology and the machinery, which was huge. This building had to accommodate so much machinery that over the years, of course, technology has overtaken a lot of things, and because of that, we just need just a simple computer to do so many of the tasks that huge machines used to do. So this building has been too big for us for quite some time, and I think we're all looking forward to a fresh, bright new start. It'll be, you know, a newly refurbished building, which for us, we haven't seen that for some time.
The iconic building was opened in the 1970s by Her Royal Highness Princess Anne, but though there's no one there who can remember that day, there are plenty of memories the staff will take with them, including Rachel Salter, who's been there 20 years.
Well, you know, we're ready for a fresh start. The building is fit for purpose where we're moving to. It's a bit of a thoroughfare as well, and we're still very central to the community in that area, so we're really looking forward to that. But of course, you look back over the years, we've been here a long time, as you say. Iconic building. We used to have the clock. People used to come over the flyover. I even remember that when I was little, and I used to come into Cleethorpes on a summer's day. So it's a little bit of melancholy. We've had a lot of good times here. We've been a very successful business here. From a commercial point of view, I know we've won lots of accolades and awards because that creative approach that we take to advertising and helping local customers. But yeah, it's time to move on.
You're watching Estuary News, still to come. It's time for another weekly Reflections, and we'll have all the latest local sports news and results. Well, we saw there behind the scenes of Grimsby's newspaper as it moves to new premises, and joining me to tell us how it has gone is Michelle Lawler, editor. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Emma.
Busy day for you today.
Yes, but been quite calm actually, which is a little bit strange because you expect chaos, don't you? But actually we were helped very much by professional movers, if you like,
that's what
who
you
packed
need.
us all up and gave us little labels, not to stick on ourselves, but to stick on the equipment. Although I did worry that we all might go to the flyover under Cleethorpes Road this morning and go, oh, where is everybody?
But everybody went to the right place.
I think so. Dave Laister, our business editor, was a little late, so I have to quiz him. Get
Where
back
did
to the
Dave
office.
Now, obviously, you've moved to Heritage
Yes.
House, so you're slap bang really
Yes.
in Grimsby
Yeah.
now, aren't you? And we did hear you say in there, obviously, it's because the building where you are now is more fit for purpose, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, we were kind of rattling around, if you like, on 1, 2, 3, 4 massive floors, and obviously times have changed. Everybody, you look around, you here really in this TV studio, you know, and how little people you need now with technology to do things.
Yeah.
And the printing presses moved away some years ago. Neither of us can remember. I'm struggling to remember how many. Probably 6 or 7 years ago now, even longer. Time flies. And so we just didn't need that space. And it was a vast cavern.
Yeah.
And also built, I think, opened by Princess Anne, as I said, I think in 72. And it was very 70s. So a lot of dark wood, a lot of rambling old wood. Everything was a little bit old and worn out. So yes, time for a move.
But it is exciting because you're more central, so you're handy to go, like you said, to court and the council
and
offices.
Sainsbury's and House of Fraser.
That's it, do all our shopping as well. Absolutely. I mean, your memories, because
Yes.
obviously,
Yeah.
you started there as a journalist before you went away and came back.
Absolutely.
You must have some good memories as well of being in that building.
Yeah, we were reminiscing on Friday a little bit. We raised a glass to the old building when it was packed full to the rafters and the presses were there and it was very loud. And we said, it's nice to remember it as it was, not as it is now. And it was a really bustling, busy newsroom. And you remember some of the big events through your work.
Yes, exactly.
You know, as a journalist, even on a local newspaper, when Princess Diana was killed, when Mrs Thatcher resigned, or was, should I say, pushed before she jumped. And you remember all those things as breaking it in your newspaper when you had 3 or 4 or 5 editions and not a website, which we do now. So things have changed, and yes.
Like you say, the technology has changed, that you slim down more, don't you? Like you say, you don't need that big space anymore.
You don't. And I think it's better to have people, it's a better working environment to have people a little bit closer together. I think, you know, it encourages that rapport and that interaction, and we work very much with all the different departments in the news, in the building, advertising, etc. So very good to be there this morning with them all, and I'm sitting next to the head of advertising now, which is a first. So yeah.
So open plan office then.
Absolutely, yeah.
So like you say, you're all side by side.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big things, clearing out the offices, you must have come across quite a few hidden gems.
We did.
What have
we've got? Yeah, well, we've got 12 pages of material going in on Thursday with old pictures. Yeah, we did. I actually found a pinny, an apron, which I took home and put on my kitchen door because I didn't want to lose it. It's when they went tabloid, which I think was 92.
Yeah.
And they obviously did pinnies saying, you know, as a promotional activity, and it's a big plastic pinny I found. So I was thinking, what's this?
You must say some cracking finds, because obviously you had a big library as well of photographs and cuttings that have you
that's
taken
all
them
moved
with you?
us. Yes, I mean the archivist Linda, who also is our bygones coordinator, is excellent at it, has had a nightmare. And there is just boxes and boxes of photographs which we need to scan in now with technology. But you just don't want to lose them all because they're fantastic. You know,
I was going to say you'll have some great
we do.
past memories of the town and everything that's happened in them, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to remind you, you're at Heritage House.
Yes,
so people are still able to pop in and see you, aren't they?
Absolutely. The offices are open. So Sainsbury's Fishing Heritage Centre, head in that direction and you'll find us.
Brilliant.
Please pop in anytime. We're open just as we were.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for coming in. So join me after the break when the Reverend Catherine Price will bring us today's reflections, and we'll have all the latest local sports news and results. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come, we head to Grimsby Minster for reflections, and we'll bring you the latest local sports news and results. Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner Matthew Grove is a keen advocate of restorative justice, a parallel process to traditional court proceedings. Last week, the police's partner in delivering the programme, Remedy, held a press conference that brought the police, victims and offenders together. We went along and found out a bit more about restorative justice and spoke to a victim of crime and an offender about their experiences of the process.
The police, victims of crime and offenders came together last week at the KC Stadium for a special conference on restorative justice. Something championed by Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner Matthew Grove. But what exactly is it?
Restorative justice is a fantastic way of empowering the victims of crime, allowing them to recover from their experiences, to rebuild their lives and move on, no longer feeling that they're a victim.
Restorative justice is touted as a parallel to the standard court experience, a chance for victims and offenders to come face to face. Mr. Grove argues that meetings like these that are part of the restorative justice programme can fill holes left by normal court proceedings.
Well, the traditional way of dealing with crime, and it still happens in parallel, this isn't an alternative to the courts process, is that somebody appears in court and are dealt with and are sentenced. That still happens, but this fills a huge gap in that very formal process. I meet the victims of crime every month at my victim surgeries. Their main complaint isn't about policing. It isn't about the perpetrator. They are usually very, very angry at the criminal justice process, at the courts, where they feel like helpless bystanders.
Yvonne Dumsday had her house burgled by two men while she was inside. The two offenders were caught and one of them was referred to the restorative justice programme. She says meeting one of the perpetrators gave her more of an insight into who the offender was and why he burgled her.
I think the idea of restorative justice is brilliant because getting to meet one of the brave perpetrators, the other one I think is a coward because he wouldn't meet me, it was great to know him face to face, to find what had put him in that situation, and for him to realise the effect it's had on me, my friends, my family, my neighbours, the whole village really. It can only be good if it stops him doing it again, which I think it has.
This offender, who was charged with multiple crimes, didn't want to be identified but told me what restorative justice was like from an offender's viewpoint.
It's hard. I'm not going to lie about it. It is hard. You need to be emotionally ready in yourself to take that step. You need to be ready to change your life. There's no point doing it if you're not going to change your life after it, because it means nothing. So from my point of view, it was hard, and it was good for me being able to say sorry and tell the people I wasn't a monster. I was just being drunk and making stupid mistakes.
And he says he's turning his back on crime and is turning his life around.
Like I've said to many people today, I wouldn't recommend it to an offender unless they are ready to change their life. There's no point going and saying sorry, then doing a crime 2 weeks later. You should literally be ready to change your life, and if you're ready to make that step, you're ready to say sorry to the victims.
And now it's time for the weekly reflections, and this week it's the Reverend Catherine Price from the Team Parish of Grimsby.
This Sunday was our Harvest Festival here in Grimsby Minster. Harvest remains one of the most popular festivals of the church's year, even though it's not distinctively Christian, and the agricultural harvest is now remote from most people's lives. This year is probably the first time I've actually seen the harvest. And I've had a bit of a harvest of my own from the apple and pear trees in my garden. Last year I didn't know what to do with them, so most of them just fell to the ground and rotted. Jesus often uses images and stories from agricultural life to talk about our human situation. How many people in our society are left to rot, their talents never nurtured, their skills never harvested? As well as the traditional harvest supper, part of our harvest celebration this year was a protest event, raising awareness of poverty and the impact of austerity measures on the most vulnerable in this community, the people who are too often ignored, abandoned, thrown prematurely on the compost heap of life. I heard the other day that it costs more to send an adult to prison than to send a child to Eton. Farmers know that a good harvest requires an investment of time and effort, starting at the very beginning with the seed and the soil. And they know that it's a risk. Sometimes that effort won't pay off. Are we prepared to take the risk of investing in every member of our society from the very beginning of their lives? Or would we rather leave them to rot?
Joining me on the sofa is Erica Barker to look through some of the stories. Erica, what have you come across first?
Well, I'm going to start with then the new Consumer Right Act that's coming in this week. Now, that's been welcomed by the Citizen Advice Bureau in Grimsby, saying that consumer-related problems were the third largest inquiry, the third largest inquiry that they have. So new rights include, it's all to do with like the digital age that we're in now.
Yeah.
So basically, 30-day period to return any faulty digital content. So when you've got like your e-books and anything that your music downloads, so anything online, so you can return them. And consumers are being able to challenge terms and conditions that are unfair or hidden in the small print.
Yeah, because that can be a nightmare when you want to take something back, and then they bring out all those little small prints to tell you can't.
Of course they do. And I think with like digital stuff as well, with so many things being purchased online now, like with music downloads. I mean, I wouldn't know like how to return them or what to do. Yeah. So I think it's brilliant that that's being considered now. So.
Okay, and that law comes into force this week?
Yes.
It's quite a few
Thursday,
new laws this week and last week, didn't we? It's obviously that time of year.
Yeah, there have been.
Right, next story then.
Oh, this is a lovely story. So this is a group of residents, local councillors and Hull City Council workers have come together on Holland Street off Holderness Road. They were sick to death of the rubbish down the street, so they've got together and they've cleaned it.
Nice community story.
Yeah, it's a nice community story. So basically they were saying that, that the community have to take pride in where they live, so they've taken the responsibility to make it a bit more shipshape.
I think this is it with days, we know council cuts and things not being done, that sometimes you're forced to come together to do
and
this.
And what's nice as well, it's the councillors, it's the residents, so it's a big really team effort to sort it out, really.
Good. Nice little story there from Hull. Another story. Time for
yeah, just quickly then. So this is an awful story. This is a pond close to Burton Agnes Hall. 100 birds there, but a lot of them are dying. So they're saying it's to do with reduced water levels, poor water quality, lack of food. One of the residents there is actually spending, she says, more than £80 a month on feed for the birds, so she's taken that upon herself. But yeah, there's some awful pictures of that as well. So it's really sad.
Are we talking about the ducks and geese that are on the pond?
Yes. Yeah.
But surely they would fly off to another pond, wouldn't they? Or am I just being daft?
I don't know a lot about birds. It's the
Surely if it's a pond and the water's, they would fly off. Surely that means there's something wrong with the water if they're dying, doesn't it?
I don't know, but no, it's a bad situation.
Does it say how many birds have actually died?
It doesn't say how many birds have died, no. There's estimated about 100 birds there. But one of the villagers, one of the residents there, is claiming that she's found a number of birds that have been dead, so she's taken it upon herself to look after them.
I think you're going to become bird correspondent. Right, thank you very much for that, Erica. Right, now it's time for the sport.
Hull City beat Nottingham Forest 1-0 at the City Ground, with Abel Hernandez scoring the winner for the Tigers, having had his penalty saved earlier in the game. This win means that Steve Bruce's side are fifth and one of the four sides currently in the playoff places on 18 points. Paddy Madden's sixth goal of the season helped Scunthorpe beat Fleetwood 1-0 at Glanford Park, moving out of the bottom four. It was the Irons' first victory since a 1-0 triumph over Coventry. Elsewhere, Grimsby held leaders Forest Green to a 1-1 draw at Blundell Park. John Paul Pittman put the Mariners ahead after 31 minutes, only for the visitors to equalise 3 minutes later. Paul Hurst's side dropped down to 10th position with this result, and tomorrow night they host 4th placed Gateshead. North Ferriby are now 13 games unbeaten after a convincing 5-0 win against Corby Town at Church Road. The villagers were quick off the mark as they scored 2 goals in the first 6 minutes through Danny Clark and Danny Emerson, although the crowd had to wait until the 49th minute for the third goal by Ashley Palmer. Further goals by Liam King and Clark's second completed the scoring. And in Speedway, Scunthorpe's Ty Woffington won the World Speedway Championship for the second time in 3 years. 25-year-old Woffington of Wolverhampton Wolves secured his title on Saturday in Turin at the Polish Grand Prix and becomes the first two-time British World Champion winner since Peter Craven in 1962. And that is the latest from the sport.
That's all for tonight. As usual, if you've a story for us, you can visit our Facebook or Twitter pages, or you can email news@estuary.tv, or pick up the phone and call us on 01472 315 553. Until tomorrow, good night.
Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future. Estuary TV weather, sponsored by Grimsby Institute for a brighter future.